45 minutes. I won't go through an hour, actually, because there's a break that separates this session and the next one. So for the next 45 minutes, I'll take you through something that we call Dell Blueprints. Any guesses to what Dell Blueprints is all about? Blueprints suddenly seem something oriented towards architecture. Nothing with building or architecture, but this is blueprints which typically signify templates. Templates to build out an architecture in your data center for optimized workloads. Is that too much of a buzz? Right. Let's see if we can demystify this. Let's see how we can make this simpler. It's all about solutions. So this particular session will give you a quick brief on what solutions Dell has in the data center. We'll talk about solution blueprints, just an overview of cloud, a little bit on virtualization, a wee bit on big data analytics and HPC. So it's more of an introduction, what we have to offer in that space, how we offer such solutions to make it easy to deploy and manage. And we have detailed sessions for each one of these where my colleagues will take you through for about an hour each. Right? So as an overview of Dell Blueprints, I thought before we get into the nitty-gritty of why blueprints, what's the whole rationale behind it, I thought it's important to really come from a perspective of why we are going through solutions and why the focus of blueprints from Dell. So if you've seen in the morning sessions, Gaurav and others were talking about digital disruption, and they were talking about digitized world and so on. Well, I'd like to get a bit, the whole word disruption is, for me personally, disruption is negative. I like to rephrase that and call this as a change, a positive change. Because typically, whether you have an Uber in the space for taxis, or whether you have, in the hotel industry, you've got the Airbnb, those are all things that are good for we as consumers. It is disruption in the whole IT world of the way people actually book and access these applications. But in the end, who does it benefit? It benefits the customer. It benefits the end user. So I call this more as change. I look at it from a positive perspective. And that's the reason why I've actually titled the slide as Dell as a change agent. We've got numerous examples of being a change agent and actually driving change in the industry. The first one, if you go back a couple of decades ago, you'd look at products. And if you specifically see products like desktops, notebooks, and so on, well, we had one simple philosophy out there. Very clearly, we said that if we look at products like the desktops and PCs and so on, the formula is simple. We will look at affordable products. We will ensure that we put a desktop and a notebook with power-packed features on every consumer's desk or in his office at the lowest possible price. And that's typically what we did. That was our formula. That was what led to us in the market delivering solutions with the best price performance. There's no doubt to that. That was a winning formula. We drove innovation in the market. We ensured that everybody else is pushed, every vendor is pushed to power-pack features and benefits, pack it up in their configurations, in their hardware, in their solutions, and deliver it at the best price point. We had leadership in this space, and we continue to have leadership in the hardware space out there. We didn't stop at the consumer level. We went on into the data center with the same formula and revolutionized that space. We did exactly the same thing with servers, workstations, networking products, and so on. Same formula. Deliver to the customer features and functionalities which will provide them huge benefits at the best price point, the lowest total cost of ownership for our customers. That's typically what our data center solutions were all about. We're not stopping there. The next wave that we have been delivering over the past year and have a fantastic roadmap over the next couple of years is solutions. We call it blueprints, and we're going to talk about the acceleration of blueprints from now on. It's not because we wanted to get solutions across the market. It's because customers like you and customers everywhere across in the different countries across Asia Pacific, Japan, and the rest of the world were looking at the industry and looking at vendors and solution providers to provide these packaged solutions. It's not just about bundling hardware, putting in some software and delivering it across. It's clearly about meeting customers' needs, going down, listening to customers' needs, looking at it holistically, and coming out with solutions that address them from a single vendor perspective. That single vendor perspective is something that alleviates a lot of pain of our customers. As I said, when I said this is not something that we ourselves want to do and it's driven by our customers' needs, I've got some figures to back that. If you look at IDC, what IDC had mentioned, 2 years ago, in 2014, IDC actually said that 90% of the market, in blue as you see out here, is DIY, goes about buying solutions, in other words, hardware solutions, as single servers, separate storage, networking, and so on. They buy it as just hardware and put the solutions up together themselves. That's why I say DIY. It was more like a do-it-yourselves. Most customers, 90% of the market or 90% of the customers went about just buying servers separately, storage separately, networking separately 2 years ago. And then put them together, test them, benchmark them, get the solutions together, make them work and manage them in their, so spent lots and lots of time doing this. That time could be used a lot to focus on their own applications, focus on their other core issues, rather than testing hardware to put together to address their solutions. Look at that shift in the market. 3 years, from 2014 to 2017. Look at that. 30%, over 30% of that market doesn't want to do this anymore. More than 30% of our customers says, listen, I don't want to buy these servers, storage, networking as isolated blocks and then have to test them myself and put them together. Instead, I'd rather you vendors come out with solutions that are tested, optimized, and deliver it across to meet my specific need. That is what customers are asking. That's what many of customers like you all out here are asking us. I'm sure many of you all are part of that 30% who's moved away from wanting to do things yourself and having vendors or solution providers do that for you. So that is a drastic shift in the market. We are there right at that particular time to ensure that we keep to the demands and needs of our customers, and thus the Blueprint solution was born a year ago. To address this particular shift in the market was specifically why the Blueprint solution was born. So, it's not just IDC, TBR, Gartner, all of them talk about this growth and shift to converged infrastructure, reference infrastructure, engineered solutions, and so on. Right? So what is the Blueprint program? If I have to define it, it is a Dell differentiated point of view, focused on customers' workloads, focused on customers' outcomes. It's not just solutions that we have conjured up just because we feel the need to. It's clearly focused on your workloads. It's clearly focused on what we see in the market. And it brings about our entire portfolio of products, software, solutions together and deliver it across in a single template of sorts. So we've got best-of-breed products. We have seen that on this first slide. We established that very clearly, that we have stamped our authority in the market when it comes to products. Now, these best-of-breed products need to sit in your environment, delivering a lot more value. To do that, we have brought a lot of software which was in our stable, partnered with a lot of vendors in the market, lots of solutions in the market like VMware and so on, right? Cloudera, Hadoop, and such solutions. Put them together, tested these in our labs, optimized the drivers, and ensured that we deliver them across to you in packages. We have two kinds of solutions. Now, before we really get into those two solutions, there are 6 different areas that we have focused on. We see that 80 to 90%, between 80 to 90% of the market can be categorized in these 6 solutions: cloud, virtualization, VDI, UCNC, unified communications, big data and analytics, which we see very prevalent or hugely prevalent in these markets like in the Philippines, and I'll give you a couple of examples that we see across here, and HPC. I've chosen just about 2 or 3 of them. I'll talk a little bit about cloud, deviate a little bit into virtualization and cloud and big data analytics. We're just touching about HPC, though we don't see too much of HPC here. The reason I brought that is I want you all to just see the shift in the market when it comes to HPC. It's not just traditional high-performance computing. We see a lot more going down into various areas, including retail. So I'll just talk about 2 or 3 of these with some examples of what we have, where the market is heading first, and just delve into some solutions with some examples, if I can, along the way. So as I said, we've gone through the left side. We know what that is, the shift. These bar graphs very clearly saying that most of these customers who wanted to do it themselves have moved across. 30% of them in the 3-year time span have moved towards converged solutions, reference architectures, engineered solutions, and so on. What is this about? While we established in the previous slide what the Blueprints program is all about, I'm going to talk about the 2 ways we deliver it. 1 through reference architectures, 2 through engineered solutions. Let's look at engineered solutions first. Engineered solutions typically are pre-packaged solutions similar to appliances. They have a fixed configuration. Like, for example, an SAP HANA appliance. What does that do? It does just SAP workload very well. Put together, set configuration, relevant drivers, SAP HANA works beautifully on it. Reference architectures, a little bit more broader. It's a portfolio where we have a flexible template, a flexible configuration. There's a deployment guide. You have a lot of flexibility to move and deviate with various components. In other words, it leverages on quite a bit of the infrastructure that you already have. Along with that, if you need extra pieces, you can follow a particular template which assures you of a specific level of performance. So, if you say I've got about 200 VMs and I want a particular virtualization workload, and you want to know what kind of throughput you'll get out of it or what kind of performance benchmarks you'll get out of it, you have a template. If you follow that template, you're assured of X level of availability or performance and so on. So that's typically what we have. They are like Broad thumb rule, it's like a guidance for our customers to build out their infrastructure. And we've got these templates, numerous of these, in each of those area or solution areas that I showed before. How do we deliver this? I brought the slides specifically for those who are partners in here to reassure you and let you all know that these solutions are not just from Dell directly. If we are to win this space, we are conscious, absolutely conscious, that especially here in Asia Pacific and in the Philippines in particular, solutions such as these are partner driven. If you look at the market, even though a third of the market is value, which is basically solutions, when I say volume, I'm referring to just hardware or boxes, not really solutions as such. If you look at the value space or solution space, 2/3 of that space comes out from tier 1 and tier 2 partners. Those are just numbers, but just look at it from a perspective of how significant a partner's role is in delivering solutions in this market for us. They bring about, our partners are the ones who bring about that extra value add and be able to customize that extra bit. What we do is to ensure that majority of it is captured and delivered as a solution. The partner would deploy this and customize it further and fine-tune it based on your specific requirement. That's the role that we play with our partners to get to meeting your needs to the best possible manner, or in the best possible manner. Okay, I'm just going to run through 3 slides very quickly, and this is just going to show you from a general perspective. This is not just the Philippines number because we don't really have one specifically for that. So I'm just going to show you what the growth is in the space of cloud, big data, and HPC. Look at that growth. A 15% growth from 100 billion in 2015 to 2019 is 175 billion. That's typically what the cloud market is all about. What am I trying to get at here? Providers, if you're in the hosting segment, this is what you're looking at. If you're a customer, you are looking at getting more and more of your workloads onto a cloud, either through a private cloud or through a hybrid method. And that's typically what I'll talk about in a short while. That growth, if you see out here, private and public was about 60%. Hybrid is about 40%. Look in a matter of three to 4 years, 80% of that intends to be a hybrid cloud. More and more customers are looking at splitting their workloads between what they have as a private and some part of it as public. The ratio depends depending on what demands you might have from a security perspective, from a budget perspective, and so on, as to where you want to really put your applications on the cloud. So the hybrid cloud is what we are seeing, whether it's in the Philippines or anywhere else, as an area of growth, as an area where more and more customers seem to be putting across their applications for hosting and so on. If you look at big data, very similar. And here I'm going to talk, when we talk a little bit about big data, I'll give you a specific example of how we have harnessed big data in Philippines. Typically a leadership, in fact, we've used this example with Philippines actually taking the lead of how well data was harnessed to see that we're able to actually. So if you actually see from a big data perspective, we in Philippines have done something unique with a telco and with banking to mitigate credit card fraud. Something that most of the rest of the Asia Pacific is actually looking as a best practice. You've had some very interesting things across here in Philippines. We'll talk a little bit about that example as we go about that. But the point here is to show you that enterprise data will only grow in the next 5 years to a huge extent. They say 650%. 70% of the enterprise data warehouses are performance and capacity constrained. We know that. In terms of the growth rate, 10% growth rate, and look at what SAP actually has, 80 million global users on SAP. When we talk about big data analytics, we'll specifically look at two areas. We'll look at Cloudera Hadoop, and we'll look at SAP in the coming slides. But once again, a huge market, lots of people, lots of our customers looking at what they could do with their data to make them more competitive in the market. HPC, I'm going to roll through very quickly, but the point I wanted to just bring across is it's just not traditional HPC, which was restricted to oil and gas and so on. We're seeing this in numerous other segments, in retail and so on, where people are looking at hyper-converged servers. And if you look at that statistic that I wanted to bring to your attention, 1 out of 4 servers sold will be into an HPC account. So in the next 3 years, or the next 2 years, 1 out of 4 servers will be converged, hyper-converged into the HPC space. That's going to happen even here. Okay, so let's first straight get into what we see into the cloud. A quick show on the stack that we actually have. Solutions that we offer are in 4 categories. The hybrid cloud system for Microsoft, the CPS, or what is the Microsoft Cloud Platform System, the hybrid cloud platform reference architecture with VMware, a very interesting VMware reference architecture that we have, where you can actually scale out. We'll talk a little bit about how we bring in vSANs and NSX into it. Well, and you will hear more in the virtualization session, a little more details of how we bring all this to build out a cloud. Virtualization is the fundamental or the foundation to a cloud. How do you leverage to build out a private cloud, or for that matter, even a hybrid cloud with that reference architecture? And of course, we've got one on OpenStack. So, since we're planning to go through an overview of solutions in a matter of about 45 minutes, let's try to see what our whole value proposition from Dell, from a cloud perspective, is. So if you look at what we have, we help our customers build what they would like to on-premise. We also help our customers to buy what they do not want to build or what they do not want to own. And the third thing that we do is to provide our customers with a suite of management software to manage what they buy and what they build. What is on-premise or what is off-premise. And we offer our customers a whole lot of services through a hosted private cloud and a community cloud. That's our cloud proposition in a nutshell. So we've got tools to manage like Boomi, Foglight, Active System Manager to manage this private stack that you have on-premise, or to manage what's on-premise or off-premise through third-party management tools or cloud management software. Why are we winning today? What's making us win? We are the ones who are able to ship simple, small configurations. The reason I'm stressing on small configurations is specifically because of markets like here in the Philippines. You start small. You need to be able to start small and grow and scale out. Our entry-level bundle, or should I say our entry-level cloud stack, comes at less than $100K. Hybrid cloud system for Microsoft, or based on Microsoft, is less than $100K. Can you believe that? So if you're a small hosting provider, And you're looking at something like our 100 VMs to start with. You've got 2 customers or 3 customers with, say, about 25 to 30 VMs. You've got a private cloud, you've got a hybrid cloud solution as low as 100K. It doesn't have to be a hosting provider from a large telco. So those are the kind of solutions that we really have, which allow you to, of course, keep scaling out. And it only gets better in terms of economies of scale as you scale out. So solutions where you can keep adding on to that base configuration that we provide to you. So it's end-to-end cloud solutions. We also have numerous financing models. These financing models are tied because here we do have, though majority of you all are from the Philippines, we do have a few other people from other countries. So I won't get specific. The finance models change depending on country. It varies from country to country. So that's typically what we have. The point is we ship configurations, and we are the first ones or the only ones with Microsoft today who ship an under the 100K kind of a solution. Okay. I was telling you about the big data analytics. Now, on the big data analytics, it's a huge topic. It's very difficult to cover this in 10 minutes. But let me try this with an example. Most of us as customers out here, or even if you're partners out here, always wonder, where do I start from in a big data analytics kind of a solution stack? I've got a lot of data, and many of you all are thinking, I've got lots of data. What do we do with it? How do we harness it? Yes, big data sounds great, but how do we go about this whole thing? We take a consultative approach. Take, for example, what we do. Now, I can't name customers here, but I'm sure you'll make a guess when I say who it is. For certain restrictions, I'm not allowed to restrict, but I'll give you the example. A leading telco here. How many telcos do you have here, right? So a leading telco here in the Philippines, along with a bank, under the same group. So have you already guessed who it is? Yes, everybody's, I can see that. So under the same conglomerate, was able to share data with the consent of a bunch of customers to pilot a project which aimed at credit card fraud mitigation. Okay, lots of buzzwords there. What did it actually mean? We found out between this bank and the bank came up from a large group. The bank came up and said, look, we have quite a few high spenders. There are about 400 of our customers we'd like to pilot this with. These guys travel a lot, and every time they travel, there's, the first thing is credit card risk or fraud. Now, you won't believe, these are actual results that have happened out here. So we got this consent from 400 users in Philippines, their data to be shared within the groups. That's between the telecom company and the bank. The good part was, because it was under the same group, it was easy to do something like this. When you travel, when you go outside of the Philippines, say you're going to Singapore, who's the first one who knows that you have landed in Singapore? The telecom operator. Because as soon as you switch on your phone, it says, welcome, whether you're a Smart or a Globe or whichever user, welcome. And that's typically, they detect where you are. Even before you make a phone call, they know where you are. That information, if pumped across to the bank, tells or alerts the bank that, hey, Mr. X, or whoever this person is currently in Singapore. The bank then pulls up the person's, here's big data kicking in, now big data kicks in. Bank pulls up the profile of that person and says, this Mr. X, his general spending profile when he travels is on food and probably some restaurants, some shopping. Okay, that's typically, so he usually spends about couple of $1,000 on some shopping and maybe $1,000 on food, on a trip probably that lasts about, so some hotel bills and so on. But suddenly, if there is a transaction of $5,000 or $10,000 at a jewelry store, okay, let's not say jewelry store, let's say something else. Say this is so this person doesn't really have that on his profile, and an anomaly in, should I say, or a transaction that's like a $10,000 on a jewelry store just comes up. It straight away triggers off an alert which says that that's not something that's on his spending profile, blocks that transaction, and only then somebody calls you to verify you. So for every transaction that you make, they don't. But for these large transactions that don't match your spending profile, you have somebody calling to verify. We were able to mitigate $17 million worth of fraud for this user group in a matter of 5 months. That's a lot of money just for 400 users. We were able to block and mitigate that fraud just through that test pilot. We're rolling that across. Philippines is the first country in Asia Pacific to do something like this. This was a solution that we delivered from Dell along with a channel partner here in big data analytics by using the data that the banks had and getting that handshake that a telco basically has when you move to another country or when you're traveling to another country, making use of that to ensure we are being able to protect the consumer. Look at the use of data. Look at the use of two organizations within the same group delivering more value to the consumer. So these are things where we can actually now, who can come with this? The whole point was, where did we have to start? We had to start with the need. The need was credit card fraud. So we had to work backwards from there. It didn't start it's a Cloudera Hadoop, we need to build so many servers. It didn't start from a hardware model. It started really with what was the pain that a consumer was facing when he traveled. What could we do with that? Work backwards. Who are the ones we can get this information with? What information do we really need from this tons of information from a bank? Not everything. How do we get the spending profiles? How do we map it? How do we create alerts? What codes do we write? How do we do this across? How do we customize it? That's typically what Dell and the partner were able to provide as a big data kind of. This is just one story. We've got numerous stories across. I just gave you one because this is a best practice right here in the Philippines, but we've got numerous stories across on transportation, traffic management. There's lots and lots of it, retail, and so on. So it's all about a consultative approach on how we go understand the customer's needs, work backwards, put this across in an easily deployable solution with the software, optimized, customized. You might have to write codes and then being able to work this through. SAP HANA, we've got some fantastic cases across on here. Lots of these, once again. I'll talk a little bit about the SAP HANA bit. If you look at SAP HANA, most of this is deliverable. If you look at this previous slide, I'm sorry. On SAP HANA, we say, if you look at the first point, it says end-to-end solutions provider with the broadest SAP portfolio. But that really means nothing. But if I have to just delve a little deeper into it, we might say, and you've heard about this, and you'll repeatedly hear this in the sessions, about the broad portfolio that Dell has, whether it's servers, storage, networking, or whatever. It's not just because we love to have a huge portfolio and we're able to show it off. How do we use that to our advantage? Let's look at it. Our customers in Philippines, and I can name quite a few of them across, just that I need to realize which ones I can name and which ones I can't. First-time user on SAP HANA. We have these great 8 solutions on SAP HANA. When you're a first-time user, what do you need? Do you need super-duper solutions? No. What you need is an entry-level, certified by SAP solution that will kickstart the whole process. We have solutions on SAP HANA for as low as 30 to 40K. $30,000 to $40,000, a smallest appliance. Tell me, where do you find that in the market? Thanks to that breadth portfolio, that end-to-end portfolio, the broadest SAP HANA portfolio, we are able to offer even customers who start small with SAP solutions. And of course, we've got all of those sizes as SAP denotes as small, medium, large, extra large solutions. And as you scale up, we've got all of that for the data center and for the enterprise. Now, it's not only for those who start small. Look at it from a perspective of an appliance. If you see the whole SAP, if you look at the SAP story, or if you look at SAP solutions in the market, SAP dictates, or they are the ones who dictate what sort of configurations you're allowed to have in the market. You can't deviate from that. If you have to deviate, you have to get walled off to sign off. Typical, right? So given that they are appliances and they are just pieces of server storage and networking put together, we differentiate ourselves from an HP or a Lenovo or whoever it may be in the market by not just selling plain hardware. When we sell our hardware, we offer our customers what they really require in their environment to build an end-to-end SAP solution based on service management. If, Mr. Customer, you're looking at service management, you're looking at performance monitoring tools, you're looking at resource planning, optimization, and any of that, we've got a tool called Foglight. You may or may not want to buy it, but it's our duty to tell you what we have and whether it's relevant in your environment. Yes, you might buy an appliance from SAP, like anybody, you could buy it from anywhere else. But look what we will give you as an add-on, as an optional piece of software that value adds in your... It doesn't end there. If you're looking at monitoring, maintenance, or predictive operations manager, we've got things like Toad for SAP, SAP Solution Manager. If you're looking at backup and recovery, SharePlex for SAP migration, very important. Or if you're looking at disaster recovery, the SAP HANA system replication. See, this is what it's all about. It's not about getting pieces of hardware and saying, I'm just going to buy it from Dell. We used to sell it that way. Today, you can still buy just the hardware. But the point is, Dell's putting together, or has put together, numerous pieces of software that could address the entire ecosystem around SAP HANA. It's not just driving a workload to its best performance, but we're looking at it from a holistic perspective, bringing in the various acquisitions and leveraging the various software that we have in our stable. I won't talk too much about APS, but just a point, because we don't see much of the APS across here in the Philippines. But the point that you will start seeing this because Microsoft is now beginning to drive a lot of APS solutions. So where typically SQL ends, I would say APS takes off. That's typically what we have. There's a huge area. I believe in the next year to year and a half, we will see APS solutions. The reason I brought this here is for you at that point in time to remember that when you're talking about APS, we've got some very interesting pieces. We're the first tier 1 partner with an RA, with Cloudera, as well as with the first best price performance in the industry. But also, if you look at it from an APS perspective, when you're looking at solutions on Cloudera or APS, we generally have the first ones that we've come out with these OEM vendors. Just to wrap up very quickly, HPC, you will start seeing a fair bit, because you'll start seeing, even out here, we have had some inquiries here, especially on research and manufacturing. Genomics is another area where we've got specific solutions, templates, and systems for these areas of HPC. Why am I putting this slide up here? If you see solution engineering, Austin, Bangalore, Waldorf. Waldorf in Germany is typically where we have all our SAP literally side by side with the SAP development team. So if you want anything to be tailored, if you say, I've got a large environment and I want to leverage some of my existing hardware, and we want to do a bit of a deviation, you need to get a sign-off from SAP, and we will be one of the quickest to be able to do that because the Waldorf solution engineering team out there in Germany sits side by side with the SAP engineering team. We're able to get that certified. It's called a tailored data center integration approach, and we can offer the tailored data center or the TDI approach across from this center. So we've got different solution engineering teams, huge investment in labs, lots and lots of engineers that you see across in terms of testers. What these guys are actually doing is investing time and our resources actually to developing blueprint solutions to test more and more of these, to be able to customize them across for you, for your workloads. What you have to leverage are locations of solution centers where we can leverage and show you these solutions working. If you don't have them in the Philippines center, we can show them to you across in Singapore. We've got many others in the region. But the point is we have solution centers where you can come and test them, try them out before you even deploy. It's very interesting. There's a lot of material that we have, lots of material in the form of briefs for each of those solutions, aids, various trainings. So many of you all would just like to take a look at some of the presentations, the success stories, especially the success stories, the reference architectures, the deployment guides. All of that is in place for those 6 solutions. Here's an example of one of those reference architectures. I just showed you what those deployment guides and those reference architectures are all about. If you look at a complete reference architecture, this is typically what it is. You've got servers, you've got networking, you've got storage, and you've got things which will show you links to a VMware RA or a VMware deployment guide. That's a virtualization reference architecture with VMware. If you want to scale that out further and want to scale beyond from 100 VMs across, that's typically what you'd have. Just examples of how we deploy our solutions, what guides you have, how we bring everything together. You've heard a lot about just our servers. You hear a lot about just our workstations and so on. Here's where we put them all together and deliver these as solutions. And you can choose how you can pick and choose. You might say, I want piecemeal of the solution. I already have a bit. I want to add on. Just use a reference architecture. You might turn around and say, no, I have a particular workload, and these are my specs. I want you to deliver it as an appliance or as an engineered solution, and we can have that done. Either to do just one task or to fit this into your existing environment where we use a reference architecture. I just wanted to put everything on one slide. And I said, if it's in one slide, how would it look? An example of what we would do with servers, storage, backup, and so on, showing you what each attribute has in isolation as a benefit to you as a customer, and how we can deliver all of that with software which would give you that added benefit. In isolation, what the benefits are. In total, along with software, what would you get as benefits? For each blueprint solution, we have templates like this, we have charts like this, which is easy for you to understand, for each of us to be able to even articulate or even use as a reference as to why you would want to go the solution way, vis-a-vis a DIY, do it yourself, put it together sort of an approach. Finally, to end this presentation, to end this pitch, what I wanted to take you through is services. As I said in the beginning, you can leverage services across from our partners. The model that we go through is that we offer a range of services, but our partners who are closest to you would have their services too. The point is that if the partner doesn't have those particular services, they would leverage onto our services. So it's always a complementary approach, where if the partner would like to get some of the back-end services, we've got Blueprint services, we've got integrations, we've got migrations, operations, management, and so on. Various pieces of services. You can pick and choose what you need, purely, completely dependent on what you require now or what you see in the future. Very flexible approach, whole gamut of offerings across there, and all of this is available today. I thought I should just end by showing you, since this is a South Asia and we have, though majority of you all are in the Philippines, I just said, let me end by showing you some of the solutions that we have across the region. I'll start with the one that's closest to home here, Globe, big data, the $2.7 million win across with a Hadoop cluster. Huge solutions across, complete solution approach, totally for. If you look at it from a cloud perspective, VDI cloud, just a few things to call out. I've even put some very small solutions. The reason I put the small solution is to show that a cloud can be built at 100K. Here's an example of one of them in Malaysia. Not just what I said. 100K solution for cloud. Here it is. We don't only sell those super duper $2, $3, $4 million solutions, but if you're looking at even starting small, we have them all out for you. So across the globe, across the region, lots and lots of testimonials, lots and lots of successes that we've had, whether it's cloud, big data analytics, SAP HANA, HPC. I think I've got a couple of HPC ones across here. We have this all to which we come out as an offering for our customers through a consultative approach. So the key to action, the call to action is if you do have any of these, don't look at us just as vendors for hardware. We have lots of enterprise technologists even here in the Philippines. Please let us know how we can engage with you, what we could do, how we could work together. We'd be very happy to work together to see how we can solve those problems. Please note that example of what we did with the telco and what we did with the bank. We started literally from the customer's need and designed that solution from grounds up, that credit card fraud. We can do the same thing here or anything different across. We can take a similar approach and be able to have that sort of a conversation out here in the Philippines rather than just taking down as to what your hardware requirements are. This is the new Dell. This is typically what we stand for, and this is the way we will move forward as we go in the next few years. Thank you very much.